campaign. You guys are getting Kehao. Kehao who?
Yeah.
Saw her on the
Yeah,
thing for council today.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah, she's gonna be, yeah. Okay, so, they told me that Mark Lopez, he can vote.
Yeah.
Okay, as long as he,
Yes.
okay.
Oh, lots of people today.
How's your campaign?
Ended in August, Bob.
I knew you were running.
Yeah,
You're running against,
Amy.
the incumbent, so.
It was a good experience. I'm glad I did it.
Joe, you know, it's so important to have people who don't get in still have a chance.
Yep.
Can start.
And that to me is
Yeah.
worth a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd run the office just not to get in. Just
But the method-
but just a bit roundabout stuff.
See how many people agree with you?
Did you see that email from the, Agri Commission?
I did.
OIP.
I did. The
Holy
Office of Information
crap.
Practice.
OIP, yeah.
So how are we gonna get, what,
What about a gag order?
yeah,
So if the police come in and said 3 people got killed, you can't ask them a question.
Yeah.
You can't ask them where, why,
Yeah.
how.
because it's not. on the-
I already know the answer is under investigation, but that's not the point. You should be able to ask the question.
I saw that. I was like, holy.
You know, they had rules before where if you, they would, well, you couldn't go to the meeting.
Oh,
And
really?
then they had a rule that said, during neighborhood, community concerns, you could get up and voice anything.
I think that is.
So they were all afraid of, pollution. And so they, they have these rules that they took up really foster, good communication.
Yeah.
And, so this one is the first I've seen.
Those are, I think,
It's state.
it's the frustrating part about sunshine,
On the porch.
you know? I think.
Why do we come together? It's not the.
Well, no,
I
it
think
wouldn't
the
be
thing is to pass a law.
Yeah. be a bicycle rental shop necessarily, or surfboard shop.
Well, some.
Okay, Mike Lyons, please come to the front.
I've been-
All right, Casey's in the house. All right. Okay, I am calling this meeting to order. Thank you very much for coming tonight. Appreciate it. First off, declaration, any conflicts by board members? Mark?
Thanks, Chair. Potential conflict. I'm employed by the Hawaii Regional Council of Carpenters.
Thank
This
you
is
very
with
much.
respect to the Haleiwa Backyards project.
Okay, thank you. Okay, first up, Honolulu Fire Department. Thank you, sir.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Firefighter 3 Daniel, Engine 14, acting captain tonight. I'm going to read the statistics for September and then give you the safety message for October. Okay, incident statistics starting with fires. We had 1 structure fire on the North Shore, 10 fires, 1 nuisance fire, 0 cooking fires, and no activated fire alarms. For emergencies, we had 56 medical emergencies, 1 motor vehicle collision with a pedestrian, 4 motor vehicle crashes, 1 mountain rescue, no ocean rescues, 0 hazardous materials incidents. Okay, for our safety tips, smoke alarms. Okay, this year, the National Fire Protection Association's Fire Prevention Week campaign strives to educate everyone about the importance of having working smoke alarms. For more information and resources, visit fpw.org. 1, install smoke alarms in every bedroom, outside of every sleeping area, on every level of the house. Test them once a month using the test button. And then install smoke alarms when they're 10 years old. I think most of you guys know. They'll start acting up before 10 years old generally, and replace them when they stop tested. Okay.
Hey, thank you very
Any-
much.
any questions from the board?
Bob, of course. Thank you, Bob. Go for it.
At the risk of breaking law and asking a question, I've noticed that there's more fire breaks around structures and vacant lots and things. Is that something that you created motivation for? Is it voluntary on the part of the owner, or has it been encouraged by agencies?
It's been encouraged at all levels, really. Starting with the city, starting with the state. So we've encouraged that. And we're basically enforcing it to a certain extent, requiring commercial areas to clear their property. So there's a break between their property and the next property. You're welcome.
Any other board members, community members, any questions for HFD? Yes, Joe. Please come to the front. 2 minutes.
I'm Joe Lazar, Haleiwa resident. My question for you is, next to WCA, where Weinberg Village used to be, is crazy overgrown. And last year there was a little fire there, but you guys came promptly and put it out. But in the meantime, it hasn't been cleared. Do you have any sort of anything you can do about getting the owner to clear it?
Could you speak into the microphone?
I'm not sure who the owner is of that property is.
Kamehameha Schools.
Kamehameha Schools. Okay, thank you. So we can make a call to them and find out what this is.
Would
as
you
far as-
please? Thank you. We'd
absolutely.
appreciate that. Thank you,
Okay,
sir.
thank you.
Thanks, Joe, for bringing that up.
Back to you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, sir. Nice to meet you.
Okay,
Aloha.
thank you.
Next up, we have HPD. Thank you. Lieutenant Vieira.
Right, good evening, everyone. It's Scott Vieira, the Night Watch Commander for the Wahiawa Police Station, which covers Mililani, Wahiawa, and the North Shore. Go ahead with the stats for this month. There were 3 assaults, 1 robbery. There were 3 burglaries, 6 unauthorized into motor vehicles, which is basically thefts from your vehicles. There were 23 motor vehicle collisions. As far as calls for service, there were a total of 526 calls for service. There were 6 criminal citations issued, 124 parking violations, and 350 traffic or moving violations issued for the month. Go ahead with the safety tip. It has to do with just burglary prevention. And the first one is kind of obvious. You know, a lot of criminals, some of them are determined. They know what they're going to hard to prevent, but a lot of criminals, they're opportunistic. They see something, they're going to act on it. So that being said, just lock and secure your doors. You'd be surprised how many people get their homes broken into with just an unsecured door. Especially nowadays, a lot of people have closed garage with a nice sliding enclosed the garage doors, but we'll see them sometimes totally up or sometimes halfway up. I don't know why they leave like that, but just close them, secure them. Windows, especially ground level windows. Like if your house is higher, the windows are a little bit harder to access, but ground level windows, if you guys leave them open, again, it's opportunistic. They see it open, they see lights on or not on, they might entice them to enter. Especially these louvered windows. If they're open like this, I think most of you know it's so easy to just bend the tabs up and remove them. So if you guys have those, especially ground level, just close it, makes it that much difficult to break into. And the last thing has to do with surveillance systems. A lot of people nowadays have cameras at home. They're cheaper, Wi-Fi, they're much easier to set up. But just a couple of things to think about when you're setting them up is the location. A lot of people have them pointing out to the street, beautiful. But if your camera is so accessible, a lot of times what we'll see is a masked individual come up to the camera and either just swat it down or put something over it, and that's out of play. Other thing is when you point the camera, make sure or try to get it where you can see the openings of your house or your property, because a lot of times we'll have cars going back and forth, very suspicious, and we'll see them on the streets. But for us to use the video in a prosecution, we need to have the violation. So if you can catch the street and part of your property and we see them on your property, much more helpful. See them entering or exiting your house, even that much more helpful. Just things to think about when you guys set up your system, your video systems. That's all I have.
Thank you. Board members, Charlene.
Hi. Is this on? Yes, okay. I just had a quick question. I'm really confused, like for Cam Highway, that's state, correct? And then like Hollywood Beach Road, that county.
Yeah.
Okay, is there a certain number of feet from the side of the road that is city, state versus private?
I don't know the exact distance, but I know like on most of the roads, there is like where the water meters are, it goes like, I don't want to give wrong information. That's really not my department, but yeah, there is a portion that extends, left and right of the road where it's a city.
And I just need to know the measurement because sometimes people have stuff like,
Yeah, I see
Mhm.
Kelly sitting in the back. Kelly,
Mhm.
could you find out what the city and state right-of-ways are for city and state roads? Yeah, thank you. We'll get that information. You're welcome. Sorry.
No.
Any other questions for HPD? We appreciate your service.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to Board of Water Supply. I'm happy to report there were no main breaks in September, but there was one on Kukeo Circle last week. So I do apologize. It has been fixed. We are having our poetry and poster contest has started. Our poster contest is open from kindergarten through 6, poetry 7 through 12. This year's theme, what is the worth of why, by? And the deadline to enter is February 28th, 2025. For more information, please go to our website. And that's all I have to report. Any questions? Yes, Bob.
On our water bill, it says where the water comes from. Used to come from Haleiwa going up the hill, and now it says Waile'e. And my question is it just an option? They flip it back and forth, and if so, why? And how often?
It's not an option because the Haleiwa wells are off.
Good, got it.
So yes, we can flip it back and forth, but that's where your water's coming from right now while we work on the pumps. Thank you. Any other questions for me? Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to residents' concern, 2-minute time limit. Please come to the front. Please introduce yourself and or your organization. Thank you very much. Hi, Gloria.
This is slow. Okay, here we go. My name is Gloria Nahilo. I'm a longtime resident of the North Shore area. My concern is about Wildwood Beach Road and Goodale Avenue, that intersection. Now, I'm glad to see that the streetlights are on. For a while, they were not on. It was very dark there. Unless we have the ball field lights on or someone at the stop sign, then we know where to turn into Goodale Avenue. So I recommend and suggest that there be some kind of light there or solar system where it comes on at night so we can alert us when to turn when it's dark out there, especially when there's no light from the ball field and there's no cars at the stop sign. It's very dangerous.
Okay, thanks, Gloria. Good point. And thank you to Councilmember Wire for getting the lights fixed. So we'll look into some signage and or lights on that. Thank you very much. Anybody else? Hey, Joe. Oh, Michelle and then Joe. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Michelle Casimiro, and I am the Student Activities Coordinator over at Wailoa High and Intermediate School. In the last week and a half of October, we have our final home football game, which is this Friday. And therefore, it's senior night. Band, cheer, and football seniors will be honored after our game against Roosevelt. Then on Saturday, we have our Halloween event from 6:30 to 10. Our haunted house will be at the gym, and our double feature movie presentation will occur at our Tanaka Square, which is kind of in the middle of our campus. Movies are Hotel Transylvania and Hocus Pocus. We will also have concessions in our cafeteria for that. The following week will be our Halloween Spirit Week, which will then take us into November. On Saturday, November 2nd, we have our Fall Craft and Food Fair running from 9 to 1 p.m. on our front lawn. That's along Farrington Highway before the gym. Well, I guess it depends on which way you're coming from. It is one of our fundraising opportunities and will include community vendors as well as class ofs and clubs, school clubs. So please come and support this effort if you have time. We will also be accepting donations for our annual Thanksgiving Basket Initiative beginning the first week of November. It's a wonderful service opportunity for our students to nominate families who they may notice are in need and create these baskets, then deliver them to these particular families the week of Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Appreciate it. Joe?
Hi, hi again, Joe Lazar, Oliva resident. My concern is that green waste is no longer being taken at the Wailoa dump site. Well, let me take that back. They are taking it between 12 noon and 6 p.m. on Sundays. So if you want to battle the traffic or on rest, you know, a family day or rest day, that's when you can take it. Otherwise, we have to take it up the hill to Hawaiian Earth Products, which is another 15 minutes and 9 miles. You know, and it, you know, I think it's a big inconvenience. You know, here we spent $4.6 million improving the dump. And all of us thought that, oh yeah, we're going to have a green waste drop off spot and trash, you know, a refuse spot, but it doesn't look like that's the case. What I've learned is the reason for it is H Power doesn't want green waste. I guess it's hard to burn or something like that. And you know, there's no, you know, it's not good for them. I can understand that, but you know, what about us? And why are we the only ones, the North Shore, that this is being imposed on?
Okay, thank you, Joe. Kelly, would you look into that, please? Thank you very much. Karen?
I've kind of been asked to say something about this. The house right next to 7-Eleven on Haleiwa Road, it's a known bad place. Businesses around there are inundated with really stoned out people from that place. It's people in the business next door watch the people go in the back. There's a back window and it's like a to-go window. Just walk up, get their drugs, and they don't have to go in the house. They get it from the back side, from the Haleiwa side of the thing. And I mean, I'm just wondering, I know it's probably not police department, it's probably DEA, I don't know, gaming apparently. And so anyway, it would just be really nice if got cleaned out there. The whole corner's really scary. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Karen. Okay, we're going to keep moving forward because we got one particularly big issue on the agenda tonight that I think most people are here for. So we're going to keep moving forward. So the first thing up tonight is Ati Jeffers Fabro, and he's going to talk to us about the Kaena Point National Heritage Area Feasibility Study. And are you all locked and loaded? Okay, then we will get out of your way. Okay, thank you. 10 minutes, and then we'll do Q&A. Thank you, Ati.
Aloha mai kako, everyone. Thank you, board members, for having me. I'm here representing National Park Service, and Kaena Point has been nominated to be looked at as a national heritage area. So a feasibility study is being done as we speak. So next slide, please. National heritage areas, just real brief definitions, places where natural, cultural, and historic resources combine to form cohesive lived-in landscapes. There's a whole criteria list. Of course, there's going to be degrees of how people accept, you know, criteria for designation. And it was undertaken at the request of Congress. So our Congress members did request the look-see to see if this is appropriate. Next slide. These heritage areas are community-driven and definitely partner-based, and also many of them serve as conservation models. And they will be managed by local entities, not by the federal government, and it's not a national park unit. And it does not affect private property owners or restrict private properties. Okay, next one. We are undertaking public comment in several ways. We do have a newsletter that will give you information on the project itself, keep you updated on anything that goes on. Okay. Is this better? Sorry. Okay, yeah, so this is the important part. We are going out and providing several avenues for public comment, including online. We're going to be having informational meetings. 2 of them will be virtual. One will be tomorrow, and the next one will be on Thursday. So I can get that information to anyone that's interested. And then we're going to have in-person meetings. We're doing one on this side and one on the west side. I also have that information. We do have sites and time frame available. Yeah, I think Kaena is a very important place to a lot of us that live here. And we've seen it go through a lot of different iterations of management. This might be an opportunity for us to look at it from a community-driven standpoint with some federal government backing. There is some funding available, and if anyone has questions, I can try to answer. Sure. Right now, I am contracting National Park Service. My background actually is very varied. I have done a lot of environmental education. I worked with Division of Forestry and Wildlife for about 15 years, managing wetland sanctuaries. I'm at a phase in my career where consulting work is really beneficial to the folks that I work with, including communities. So right now, the outreach for Kaena Point. And I also, we had the Friends of Kaena back in 2007. I think we formed it with a bunch of residents in action to a state plan that was coming out of Office of Planning for Kaena as one of 5 hotspots in the state. So we developed the Friends group. We were able to address some of the issues. There was an advisory committee that was formed, but I think there was a lot of work still unfinished. Here we are again. I'm representing the National Park Service once again, contracted out, but also really on behalf of Kaena to find ways to manage this correctly. I did try to iterate to these folks that, we should be looking at it from a cultural lens first. Everything will fall into place after that. So I hope that we, especially Hawaiian community, comes out and do comments, because it's really important in the process, whether you think it's good, whether it's bad. If you don't say anything, someone else will. That's what I think. So please participate. Thank you. Any questions?
Board members, Bob Liddell.
So the last time people were talking much about Kaena Point, it was when the Bureau of Ocean Energy, BOEM, and they were talking about doing a lease. And the subject of Kaena Point was very much a part of the discussion and the values and the history and the culture. And if you could capture the meetings, the minutes from those meetings, it would be invaluable. It would really be productive and educational. The other thing is, so right now this is handled by the state, which would be the DLNR, would be parks, I believe.
They are the main owners of the land.
So the question is, if it changed from what it is today to what's being proposed, you had mentioned that it would be community-based, but I got a little fuzzy about when it's community-based, how's the funding work? Because almost all parks or operations require funding, and the reason they don't function very well is because they don't have funding.
Yeah.
Can you address those issues?
I can, in a limited way. I think the ownership will not change. State will still retain ownership. What they're looking at is community-based and driven organization entities, whether they be nonprofits, business, that can work with the criteria for the designation and create partnerships with the owners, with other entities that may be involved. Could be feds, could be private, who knows? So really the gist of it is to try to help manage it in a more cohesive, community-driven way. And so the feds just create this designation so that they can allow the resources to go towards that. So there will be some dedicated funding for NHAs, and I'm not sure how competitive or if they have to compete for it, but there is funding that can be attached that will help these entities, whoever they may be, to facilitate the management or co-management. I don't know if that answered your questions, but it's a process.
Casey.
So it sounds like just changing, except we're opening up for additional funding opportunities to make additional improvements or protections. Is that?
I think that's part of it, but I think the other part of it is trying to have more cohesive management where people are actually talking to each other, creating solutions that benefit not just each other, but also the place especially. And that takes a lot of work. So I think this feasibility study is trying to tease out what, if there is that strength in community to be able to do something like that.
Are there any automatic implications if it's designated, for example, vehicular access or other things that would be restricted if the designation is applied?
I don't think they're going to have anything to do. There's existing laws and rules in these places already, so I don't think that's going to change.
Community, any questions for Ati? Joe and then Larry. Please come to the front. Sorry. We record this for posterity. You know how it goes, Joe.
Joe, the slide said the meeting on the 30th is to be determined. Any update on that?
I do have that. Yes. Thank you.
Hey, Charlene.
I just have a quick question. So I remember that when there was Friends of Kind of Point. So that's kind of organization you're looking for people to get together. Is it still around? What happened to it?
Well, I've been trying to hold on to it for a long time. As you know, nonprofits are hard to keep a hold of, and board members shift, change. It can be resurrected if there's a will and a way, and anyone can see me. If you're interested, I would love to see it happen again. But yeah, it's dormant, as I would
That's
like to
the kind
say.
of organization, community
But it
that
would
you're
be.
looking
It
for.
would be something like that. And it could also be a business that has a type of, I don't know, the educational value that they see or whatever they can provide. So yeah, take a lot of forms.
Yes, Bob.
I believe it's currently a NAR site. Would that designation remain?
It's actually managed by two different DLNR departments. So parks are on the outside and DOFA is in the middle at the point.
So the question was, is it currently a NAR site designated, and will it remain one?
It will. Oh, definitely. Yeah. So that stuff won't change. Yeah.
Any other questions for Ati regarding this issue? Thank you. It's so nice to see you.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Thanks,
coming
folks.
tonight. Appreciate it. Okay, we're going to give Jim a second while he pulls up the next PowerPoint. Oh, I'm sorry. It just Inga, get up here right away. Inga missed her cue, so I promised she'd get 2 seconds. Go ahead, Inga. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I was sitting in the back. I didn't have time to make it up here, but I just want to introduce myself. I'm Inga Makatiag, and I represent Mexico Farms, and we're gonna have t-shirts made, but for right now, a lot of us wore orange. But go ahead and raise your hand in the back, Mexico Farm lot owners back there. I have a beautiful box of turmeric here that I have been growing and selling to the Wailua Bakery. Billy is a lot owner in Mexico Farms too. And we basically want to just let you guys know we want to grow food for the community in those farm lots. That is our intention. And it really makes it difficult if you can't legally live on the farm to protect your crops and to protect your equipment. And so we just want to build a rapport with the community and let you know that we really want to grow food for you guys. That's what we want. And we really appreciate Raquel for organizing a meeting with the DPP to help us move through the loops and hoops and whatever we need to do to get that to happen. But I just wanted to let you know we're here and we are trying to grow food for the community. So
Thank you,
you.
Inga. And that meeting's going to be held on Friday, November 22nd at 6 p.m. at the WCA. And I want to thank Committee Chair Raquel Achu. This was her brainchild, and she worked with Vice Chair Alexander. So they're working very hard to bring all the right people out to try and help you guys. Thank you, Luella. We tried to respond to your comment last month, and this is what we've come up with to try and bring people to you guys so you can ask all your questions and hopefully walk away with a better picture of what's going on. So thank you all. Thank you all for coming tonight. We really appreciate it. Okay, Jim, are you ready? Okay, before you start, I do need to declare, I do have a conflict on this one. I do play pickleball with the Ledbetters. I just want to be clear about that. Okay, thank you, Jim. Go for it.
Okay, my name is Jim Hayes. I'm the agent for the applicant in this situation. This is a single-family residence proposed at this location in Waimea Bay, essentially, the fringe of Waimea Bay. And it's a residential lot zoned R5. It's 20,000 square feet in size. And so we're just going to run through quickly some information about the project. This is an overview of the project site. And as you can see, in 2021, there were 2 residences on the property. And it's right there on the north side of Waimea Bay. Then this is a photograph from 2024. And you can see that there's a new house being built here close to the shoreline. And they obtained a building permit for that some time ago, and that's now under construction. And the proposal is for a new residence closer to the highway, a second residence similar to what was there before. And this is from the University of Hawaii's website. You can see the web address down in the bottom there. And this illustrates sea level rise hazard areas. So the blue shading is what you call the sea level rise exposure area. And that's just where there's a hazard related to sea level rise. And specifically, this hazard is related to the high wash of large waves, as one would imagine in this setting. There is no shoreline erosion forecast to occur at this site because it's a rocky shoreline rather than a sandy shoreline. That blue shading goes roughly 40 feet into the parcel, and the house that's being developed is just behind that. And the house that's proposed is the second house closer to the highway over here. It would be a single residence, relatively modest in size, 2 levels, 1,600 square feet of interior living space. So part of it will be a garage, would comply with all applicable land use regulations and consistent with the neighboring residences. So we have to be here tonight because the project requires an SMA permit. Oh, one more slide, sorry. This is a side view, just elevation view of the residence as it would be visible from the highway side if there wasn't a rock wall between the highway and the property. But there's both a rock wall and vegetation between the development and the house. But we need to do this presentation to generate a complete SMA permit. And we're open to people's comments. And after this meeting is over, we will complete a SMA application and submit it to DPP, requesting approval of this proposed residence. So we're here to hear if anyone has any comments.
Jim, could you go back to the site plan? Because people might want to refer to that. Perfect. Thank you very much. Board members, any questions for Jim? Mike?
What is the purpose of having residents on the same property? And where are these people, where do they live?
The owner has, I don't know when they purchased the property, but they lived there previously when, before they tore down the residences, but they wanted to upgrade the residence. There was a lot of termite damage, and it was just dated. And so they wanted to redevelop. The site is zoned R5, and given the size of the lot, they could build at least 3 residences. So they're only proposing 2, but they could live it out long-term, or they could use it for their extended family. I don't know exactly what their intentions are, but it will not be a short-term rental, and it'll be compliant with the rules.
Bob?
You mentioned it had a rock wall. They did a great job. The people who have the place are known to be philanthropists, and they're not cutting corners. I think they're building a really nice house. I trust them to do a good job.
Thanks, Bob. Raquel?
I noticed on the original buildings, both of them were about 900 square feet. These are significantly larger, taking up more space. Is there a reason there's an SMA for the second build and not the first build?
That's a good question. And the reason is when they submitted the building permit for the house closer to the shoreline, the SMA rule did not require an SMA permit for a single family residence. In 2021, the city council changed the law. And so that's why you now hear from people like us related to single family residences. So that's the reason for that.
So this isn't going to be their primary home.
It will be their primary, my understanding is it will be their primary home, yes.
Community, any questions from the community? Yes, Karen, please come up.
I'm just a little confused because a friend of mine lives next door and she's had quite a few issues with this property. Because like Raquel was saying, the original one was 900 square feet and this one's just significantly larger. And her understanding, and I'm just asking for her because I don't know, was that the new house was supposed to be the same size as the old house because of the zoning. So she was wondering why it was allowed to be so much larger than the original. And she also says that they don't live there.
They don't live there yet. That's true. The house is under construction. But the land use ordinance is the city's tool to regulate residential development and all kinds of development throughout the city based on the zoning code. And the zoning code here is the R5, like I mentioned earlier, which means 1 house per 5,000 square feet of land area. So like I mentioned earlier, they could have up to 3 houses. And the other thing that regulates is the height. So generally the height limit is 25 feet. So you can go 2 floors, but not 3. That's typical of all residential districts. Another element of the land use ordinance is the floor area ratio. So at 1,600 square feet of interior living space is actually a relatively modest residence for a shoreline residence. And the floor area ratio can be up to 0.7. So just throwing out some numbers for a lot that's 20,000 square feet, that you could theoretically have no more than that, 10,000. If you had a 10,000 square foot lot, you could have up to 7,000 square feet of living space. So, yeah.
Karen, if you're gonna, please, I got.
No, my question is more around the fact that because it's to the ocean, you're not allowed to just build a whole new house there because it's too close for the new laws. So what it is essentially is a remodel. And therefore, it's supposed to be the same footprint as the other one, the old one. And so we're just curious. I know the other house, you'll probably be allowed to build a lot bigger because it's not that close to the ocean. But this one is too close to build a new house. Like I just repeating myself, sorry. So yeah, why are you allowed to go way bigger when you're not supposed to, as far as I know?
Okay, this goes back to my answer yeah. The rules changed in 2021, and the building permit for the shoreline house was submitted before the rule change. If the owner of this lot submitted an application for a shoreline residence today, it would have to be a little further away. It would have to be an additional 20 feet back from the shoreline. But the rules just recently changed.
Hal?
Sorry. So did the second build already start?
No, it has not started.
Sure. I'm gonna go look. So this property, considering its location, what is how are you guys planning the ingress and egress to turn in being that should be room to come so it's held up right on the highway? Because there was a truck recently that was delivering there and literally took the whole highway and stayed there. So to pull in, is there room to pull all the way in, or are they leaving it right on the highway? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying. So there's an entryway here, and there's the gap in the stone wall there, and that will remain. There's quite a large, someone asked earlier about state right-of-ways. So the actual road, like the surface of the road is back here. So there's a fair amount of space between the roadway and the property line. But yeah, the way it's designed and the way it's typically required is not for construction, it's for use, right? And so the person has to be able to pull their car in here and be off of the driving surface and off of the right of way to enter the property, to like take time to open the gate or whatever. And so that part is designed into, yes.
Any other questions for Jim? Okay, I don't see any. Okay, thank you, Jim. I appreciate your time. And Jim's also doing the next one, so we'll let you queue up for the next one. Thank you.
Okay, so it's unusual I have two projects on one agenda, but I'm also assisting the developer on this project known as Haleiwa Backyards. And this project site is between Kamehameha Highway and Joseph P. Leong Highway, known as also the bypass. It's a single parcel. It's roughly 7.5 acres in size. It's primarily in the agricultural district and the agricultural zone. This drawing illustrates the county's zoning. So it's primarily in the Ag 1 zoning district currently. But as also shown here, it's outside of the SMA area. So unlike the previous project, it doesn't require an SMA permit. This is an aerial photograph to help understand where the project is relative to things you're probably familiar with. So it shows that it's in a vacant parcel, and it's a remnant parcel that was formed as the Department of Transportation acquired the right-of-way for the bypass. And it separated this from a larger area that was and still is Malka of the bypass. Bring this closer to my computer. Okay, importantly, I'll sit down so I can keep these papers from blowing away and you guys can see the screen. Importantly, the site is within the community growth boundary and the country town district that was established in the North Shore Sustainable Communities Plan. As you can see here, it's also in the Haleiwa Special Design District. This is a similar map that I showed in the presentation previously, again from the University of Hawaii's website, illustrating coastal hazard zones. And the project site is outside of the coastal hazard zones and the flood hazard zones. This map doesn't show the tsunami evacuation areas, but it's also outside of the tsunami evacuation areas. All right, this is a conceptual plan showing the general layout of the plan development. And the zone change request will involve the bulk of the site being in the low density apartment zone, or what's called the A1 zone. And as it says here, I'd be 150 to 156 units in duplex and townhouse style, sort of around the perimeter of the property. And then it would be neighborhood business zoning or B1 zoning in sort of the central area. So this area through here between the two roadways. And this would be, excuse me, that would be for community businesses or neighborhood businesses. And access to the site would be from Opaiula in the north, from Kamehameha Highway, right by the hardware store. And then on the south, it would be via Cane Hall Road. And that Cane Hall Road, you can see there on the south side, it also extends under the bypass and is used to access land Malka of the bypass. And then I just want to point also in the far southern here, over here is where the wastewater treatment plant would be located. So this shows a conceptual landscape view or sectional view of the apartment structures. And they will be designed to comport with the guidelines of the Sustainable Communities Plan. And the design would involve, as stated here, plantation-style architecture, building heights below 40 feet, smaller building footprints for less coverage and more open space. So, you can go up to create units and maintain open space around those units. Then parking and multimodal transportation access and low impact development LID principles, and those are related to stormwater management, wastewater management, and things of that nature. And this is showing the commercial concept. So similar to the apartments, these are also designed to comply and comport with the Sustainable Communities Plan guidelines. And again, have style architecture with heights below 40 feet and accommodate a permanent farmer's market, community or neighborhood retail outlets, and office space. Of course, the developer can't dictate exactly what is successful in these business settings, but those are the kind of things that are being thought of and sought after. And they would be there to serve local community needs. And this is my last slide. And this goes through sort of just a very brief understanding of the planning and permitting process that started with a environmental assessment back in 2015. It was completed in 2016 with the finding of no significant impact. And currently we're on the second row, which is the state land use district boundary amendment. That application is currently being considered by the Department of Planning and Permitting. And then the next step is the zone change, which is kind of and that's where, so the first one we're doing now is to change the state district. The next one, the zone change, is to change the county zoning area. And that's what I was talking about earlier, changing to A1 and B1. And if that's successful, then moving on to the special design district, and then building, grading, wastewater, those kind of civil permits would be last. So I think that's the end of my presentation. Yep.
Jim, can you go back to, yes, that'll be perfect. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and so like before, with the earlier project, we're here to hear from the community, and take what your ideas are into consideration, and where possible, integrate them into the project, and move ahead with the planning and permitting process. Now, that earlier slide I showed with all the tables, there's a lot of things that are going to go into the process. So we'll be having hearings, we'll be before the city council. This is going to take a while. So this is just one opportunity for people to have their input, and there will be other opportunities in the future, but open to questions tonight.
Okay, I'm going to start like we usually do on major projects with the sub-district reps as a courtesy to them. And I can tell all the board members have lots of questions and comments. So everyone will have a chance, and we got plenty of time. So if this takes the rest of the meeting, we will take the rest of the meeting. I don't care. So Mr. Lyons, I will start with you since you're in my eyesight.
Yes, Jim, approximately how many people, given 3 to 4 in a family, are you looking, minus the commercial side, are you looking at putting there? The other thing is, I personally would like to see ingress and egress direct, not only to Kamehameha Highway, but also to the bypass. Because Kamehameha Highway, most days is really backed up. So we need another access to the bypass, both and out. And then how many people?
Okay. I can try to address a few of those things. The number of people, I'm not sure. I mean, we're 150 units, so, 600 people. Yeah, something along those lines. I think they're all designed to be 2-bedroom units. So, small families. The units will be targeted at what is considered the GAP group. So these are not luxury units. These are for people that live and work in Haleiwa. And then related to access from the bypass, you may recall when the bypass was built, they wrote an EIS and they did all their studies. And one of the big concerns with the bypass was, is it going to make Haleiwa no longer viable as a town, and it's just going to have fast food restaurants on the bypass and things like that. That was a big concern in the community at the time. And so the State Department of Transportation said, no, we're not going to allow any access off of the bypass. And so the whole bypass is a restricted access road. The accesses that exist today are probably the only ones that are going to exist for the foreseeable future. So there's not, and we talked to the Department of Transportation about this, there's not an option to have access directly from the bypass.
Okay, Mike, just 1 second. Are you finished, Jim? Okay, go ahead, Mike.
So you're talking approximately 300 more cars. And where are you going to park these guys? I know you got parking, but I can't see 300 stalls.
Okay, well, there will the number of parking spots that are required by the land use ordinance, which is generally 2 stalls per unit. And some of the parking is going to be underneath the units. Some will be along the roadways. And there is quite a bit of parking provided in this diagram. So yeah, there's sufficient parking for the land use proposed.
Board Member Chu.
God. So your EA was done in 2015. Have plans of doing another, being that it was 10 years ago now, just about.
We approached the Department of Planning and Permitting with that question, and they said, no, there's no need to do another environmental assessment for the project. The project has remained essentially the same as it was when it was written in the EA in 2015. And they wrote a letter stating that we can proceed based on that disclosure document.
Wrote the letter.
Someone at DPP, I don't have it in front of me.
Are these units for rent or sell?
The concept is for rent.
You want to rezone?
Excuse me?
You want to rezone to,
So the proposal is, like it says here, A1 zoning and B1 zoning. And just for context, all these lots that are along Kamehameha Highway, these are the ones that are fronting Kamehameha Highway. And this lot is behind those. Most of those lots along Kamehameha Highway are zoned B1. A few of them are still R5, but most of them are B1, and some of them are actually zoned industrial. So this zoning is consistent with the neighboring zoning. And then some of the properties on the other side, on I guess you call it the Mackay side of Kamehameha Highway, are zoned B2, which is a little higher level of business relative to B1.
I'm just gonna make it known, like I can't support a rezone of ag land. That's difficult for me. I've stood on that for a long time. I would like to have seen a project that supports agriculture in some sense, that supports the land as well. But just making that a full disclosure, yeah.
Thank you. Board Member Casson Fisher.
I'm so excited to see a movie theater in Haleiwa again. Right? Movie theater, maybe some CPK, maybe some Cinnabon, I don't know. I'm on the same lines as Member Achu. Mahalo.
Thank you. Okay, going to Board Member Fu, go ahead.
Okay, so let me understand the traffic here. So the only way to get into this development is coming through Haleiwa or into Haleiwa itself, Haleiwa town, correct?
That is correct.
And then, so it's going to go into Haleiwa town because there is no access from Cam Highway, correct? And then is this affected at all, do you know, with the new master plan, sustainability plan that hasn't come out yet? Have you seen any difference in how that's supposed to be treated? Because it's not out yet, I realize that.
It's still being
It's
worked
still
on.
not
They
being
wouldn't
written,
have seen it.
so yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say a few things about traffic. You know, we believe providing a rental units within the community growth boundary will help reduce the number of people needing to rent along the North Shore and other areas away from Haleiwa, and reduce the number of people that commute to Haleiwa, because the people that would live, hopefully, that would live in these apartments would be people that work in the community and therefore would be commuting from a lesser distance. There was a traffic impact analysis report prepared that was part of the environmental assessment that is being updated, and it will be included with the application for the zone change. And then related to the update of the community the sustainable community plan. We don't have any like knowledge of that specifically, but we've been watching the process and looking at what they've provided so far. They're looking at updating policies around housing to encourage a preference for affordable rental housing for local residents. And that's exactly what this is aimed at. They're looking at concerns related to floodplains, sea level rise, and other constraints. And again, like I pointed out earlier, this project is outside of those hazard areas. They've also said that they're looking to retain the community growth boundary, keep it where it is, except for at the Mill Camp, which is another affordable housing project that's being proposed, and direct future residential development to Haleiwa and Waialua towns. And again, this project is within the designated town area, and concentrate new commercial development within or near existing built areas. So like I said earlier, all those neighboring properties are already built and used commercially. So we feel that this project is exactly the kind of project that was envisioned by the community plan, sustainable community plan, which talks specifically about low density apartments in Haleiwa town, and also goes with the guidelines included in that plan. We don't anticipate that the guidelines will change substantially because the community does grow and there are new residences, new expanded families that are living here that need places to live.
Yeah, really quickly before Bob, I'll do Bob and then we're going to open it up for the rest of the community. And I see poor Ben standing there. So I got to tell you, Jim, I am completely opposed to this project. I can't support this. This is a 10-year-old EIS. I'm sorry, I don't care who signed the letter at DPP. We're going to go after it. I can tell you that right now. I'm just laying down that marker. We're going after it. And the Sustainable Community Plan, a bunch of us worked on that. We'll be coming to the community. Things may not remain the way you think they will remain. And I don't mean you personally, but you know, in general, because that current plan is also well over 10 years old. This community has lost its appetite in many ways for this kind of growth. And Mike Lyons is right. I mean, you're adding 600 cars, you know, probably at least 600 cars into a community that can barely get through the day on an average day. So traffic is a huge, huge issue for us. And I do not believe this even begins to address that. But Bob Lanau, and then we'll open up to community. Thank you.
I agree with everything that's been said, even the negative stuff. The number one to say with regard to environmental impacts, somewhere I heard that the sewage was going to have to be taken off the property. Apparently, that's not part of your presentation. You said it'll at the far end. And the amount of volume is going to be really interesting, and the amount of failures there are in cesspools. We're at the foot of a mountain. Everything kind of slops down to the Haleiwa low point, and try and get rid of a significant volume of wastewater is a huge problem. And, you know, one of the things you look at a project that's being proposed is you go, God, I wonder what could go wrong. And just waving a yellow flag in front, maybe, yeah, yellow flag. The other thing is, with regard to the Holly Cultural Design District, or Special Design District, I guess it's called now, I would be curious what the density per acre is now. And then I would be interested in doing a compare and contrast with your design, which I think is significantly higher in density. Another thing, you mentioned the word workforce housing or affordable housing. You know, someone who made this presentation here before, somebody in the room here said, well, you know, you talked about workforce and affordable housing. He said, no, wait a minute. I never said affordable housing. The idea was not to do affordable housing. It was to do workforce housing that was in what you call the gap group. But it'd be nice if there could be some accommodation. The other thing is, when I looked at your elevations of the dwellings, Haleiwa, in terms of scenic of the cultural design district, this looks like a Southern California housing tract.
Okay, thanks,
They all
Bob.
look like same old, tickle-tacky. Do I have to sit down and be? Wow, okay. I was just getting warmed up.
I know, and we can come back to you, but
Well,
really,
I'm glad I got address a few things.
okay, go for
Yeah.
it.
So I'm glad you brought up the wastewater. That's something that's been worked on for a while now with this project. And you're right, when the EA came out, there was a concept that the wastewater would be shipped, or not shipped, but piped to the Mackay side of Kamehameha Highway and treated over there. We've worked carefully with the Department of Health and the Board of Water Supply to address their concerns related to the wastewater. And we now plan to manage all the wastewater on site. There'll be a wastewater reclamation facility that treats the wastewater to the R1 or R2 level and then uses the reclaimed water for irrigation and landscaping purposes on the site. And it also includes a backup effluent leach field. This approach would be consistent with the North Shore Regional Wastewater Alternatives Plan, which people here may have had a role in developing. And like I said, we've coordinated with Board of Water Supply and DOH. They have stated that drinking water sources will not be impacted by the ground disposal of wastewater at the site. And both the Board of Water Supply and Department of Health have indicated they do not oppose the proposed wastewater management approach with irrigation reuse and the backup leach field on the subject parcel. The proposed system would be designed, permitted through the Department of Health, built and operated in compliance with applicable rules and regulations. So got to look at my notes. People keep bringing up traffic, understandably, but I wanted to say a few things about that. And I mentioned that there previously had been a traffic impact assessment report, and that is being updated. That'll be in the zone change application. But one thing to consider is that the period of heaviest traffic in Haleiwa town is not during your typical morning and evening rush hours. It's in the middle of the day when there's more visitors in the town. And the people that live and work in this housing will be like us. They're going to be working and living in the community, and they're going to be commuting during those early morning and evening commute hours, not during the busiest traffic time of the day. So we don't anticipate that they'll be adding traffic to that midday peak. And furthermore, due to the proximity of their residents to parks and schools and businesses, they may not be taking as many vehicle trips as if they were living further away from town. And they could be riding their bikes and walking and things like that. And this is part of urban planning, is to build more dense housing to the town center.
Okay. Yeah, and then his density question about the special.
I don't have a
Yeah,
answer.
if you could get back to us on that, that would be great. And I got to tell you, Bob, you were correct. That was their own architect that said that. Oh, I never said affordable. That was their own architect in February when they came. So Ben Devine, you've been waiting, and I really want you to come because you're making me nervous standing there on your leg, and I'm feeling very guilty for making you wait.
Does this fit in here? Oh, there we go. So hi, Ben Devine. Come here a lot, don't talk often. I think everybody knows this is just too much stuff and too small of a place. I'm a Plan B guy. I do safety and emergencies for a living. If a fire happens at the south end or north end of this, there's no way everybody's going to get out of there. That road that's up by Ace, that's not a 2-lane road. It's never going to be one. Jim, I really feel for you. You've done a lot of hard work on this. I read the whole document. There's a lot of stuff there. It's been many years. a lot of back and forth. The biggest mistake you made was sending the last guy that came up here. Joe Landcore, the architect, came here, and he, on the record in front of this body, somebody implied that the infrastructure here in Haleiwa wasn't enough for it. His exact words were, if only we didn't have turtles. That did not go over well with the community. Then a presenter, and then somebody pointed out that, you know, I think it was Bob here, somebody pointed out that the building codes were going to be pretty intense for a project like this. And his response was, the current set of codes are so intense that it's impossible to meet them, meaning he does not intend to meet the codes. Then when asked about the affordable housing, he said, I never said affordable. Another member of the board then pointed out that affordability was in the EA and it was a requirement that there be affordable housing. And his response was, I'm not going to build a modern ghetto. I don't know, I think that just having, and again, I feel for you, but having somebody that's officially part of your project on the record in front of this board say those things, that he's not going to meet code, that he's not going to build affordable housing, and that he doesn't like turtles is going to tank the project, man.
Thanks, Ben.
The one small add in there is that the real question, how do we ensure that the homes do go to people working in Haleiwa?
Thank you. Good question. Thank you.
I'll just touch on the affordability question. The project will meet affordability. Right, you just hold it. The project will meet affordability requirements, and those requirements are established during the zone change application process. So that's the next process, as if you remember my table of all the different permits and things that are required. The zone change is the next one. And during that process, the developer would work with the city to identify appropriate affordability requirements given the size and nature and location of the project. It is anticipated that a percentage of the units will be reserved for those earning a certain range of income. And you've heard it can be anything. It has yet to be decided. So, you know, you can provide input on that if you like. So the number of units and the range of income, that will be established during this next process. The remainder of the units will be rented at market price. And you're probably asking, well, how much is that? Well, we don't know. It's still years away from these projects even being permitted, let alone built. But like I said earlier, they're not for the market. 2-bedroom townhouses that are designed for local people that live and work in the community. These are not, again, luxury, high rent district kind of things. They're between the bypass and the highway in close proximity to jobs that hopefully people working in those jobs can afford to stay in these apartments. The developer believes that providing long-range rental incomes adjacent to the town center, which is something that's not available at quantity today, will be an attractive option for the local workforce compared with either buying a residence on the North Shore or renting a room or a cottage somewhere further away from downtown, or not downtown, but Haleiwa town.
Okay, I'm going to take another comment before Karen. Karen, I've had the lady in the back hasn't had a chance to speak. Could you please come to the front? Thank you very much. Karen, I will come back to you. Don't worry. We got until 9:30. You got plenty of time, girlfriend. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Rebecca. I live in one of these parcels adjacent to this property. This is the first I've encountered with it, and it's because I follow the Neighborhood Community Association website or the email distro. I've never engaged with the developer proper or gotten any communication from them. I did take some time to read some of the document. Census data does have 1,200 units in Haleiwa proper, or not Haleiwa proper, the zip code, or the TMK, which includes Wailua. So this is a 10% increase in housing. So my concern is stormwater runoff. What percentage of this property is impervious?
If you could answer all your questions and then we'll get to.
Okay.
Thank you.
My concerns with circulation as far as concerns with access from Weed Circle and the Haleiwa Joe's. Concerns with density, the character of duplexes and townhouses is not part of Haleiwa, the way the community has been designed. Also unit per acre, and also 40 feet is pretty darn high for that residential community that's adjacent. So we're single family, 1-floor houses, just south there or north of there. And then all of a sudden we've got these 40-foot buildings behind. And then parking, my question was what you meant by multimodal transit. Just because the bus comes down Camp Highway, are you expecting it to come up and through? And that is, I think, most of my questions.
Okay, and just hang out right there in case he forgets anything, and then we can ask you again. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, first question about impervious surface and stormwater related to, I don't have exact numbers on like what percentage of the property will be impervious. It's still a conceptual plan. As the plan comes together, as we move through the process, that information will become available. But as I'm earlier in the presentation, we're looking at LID development, which I can't remember what the acronym means at the moment, but is low impact development. There you go. That's what I was trying to come up with. But one of the elements of low impact development is to manage your stormwater on site. And so there are products that get buried underneath the roadway that retain the stormwater and allow the stormwater to percolate into the ground. And this is common practice in modern development so that the stormwater doesn't negatively impact anyone nearby and is managed and treated so that you don't have silty runoff and things of that nature over the long term. So that would be how that's managed. And that is discussed maybe at least briefly in some of the materials that are available online. The rental, the people that are managing the property. And then, regarding multimodal transportation and the bus route, the bus will stay on Kamehameha Highway, but the roads that you see through the development will be, again, low impact development kind of things, complete streets. They'll have sharrows on them. There will be wide sidewalks so that this is designed to be walkable and livable. It's not just a car-centric development.
Multimodal means bikes, walking, etc.
Yeah. Yeah, so as you can see, there's a big setback between the existing development along Kamehameha Highway, and then you have the roadway and parking, and then the buildings. The actual buildings, I don't have a tape measure, but it's a substantial distance, probably 60 plus feet away from the existing development on those neighboring lots. It will be designed. So I don't know if you were here for my presentation. It'll be in the plantation style and things. It'll be consistent with the Sustainable Communities Plan design guidelines.
I do have to say, as a neighbor, she should have been contacted, and it bothers me.
Yeah, let
that
me address
wasn't
that. So
contacted.
we're required to inform all the owners of the neighboring properties of our presentation here tonight, and we did that a couple weeks ago. And well, if you were an owner, are you a registered tax owner? All right, then you should have received our letter unless the tax address in your tax bill is incorrect, because we use the tax bill address.
Jim, I
anyway.
would like you to get her address tonight and
Yeah,
then
if you can
double
give me
check
your
and make
address.
sure she's on any future mailings. It's
Yeah.
disturbing to me that she didn't receive it.
I did talk to at least 2 of the people we sent letters to, so I know they were received. But yeah, provide me your address.
And then we're going to take Kayla, and then we'll come back to the board. Kayla, please. Thank you.
Hi, Keala Fuyava. I'm a rep here in Waialua and 6 generations here on the North Shore. My question is, you did say that a traffic impact analysis is being done, does this include the impact of ingress and egress on Opaiula Road and the business that's currently operating there? And then the second part to that is, you also mentioned that there's some kind of runoff mitigation on property. Does this also include any impact of runoff directed along Opaiula, which is a road that has been known to flood?
Okay, first, related to the scope of the traffic impact assessment, that work is just starting, as I understand. It will be a reproduction of the work that was done during the environmental assessment roughly 9 years ago or so. And it'll look at least 3 intersections, one of them being Opaiula Road, one being Cane Hall Road, and I can't remember what the third one is, but it's right there in the neighborhood. And what we do is look at the level, what they call level of service, and it's a traffic engineering term that's graded A through F. And if, you know, that what happens is they predict how many trips are generated by the development on the property, the residences and the commercial. And based on that trip generation model, they add that to the existing traffic at the times that it's predicted to happen and see if the level of service grade changes. And at least in the previous one, the level of service level remained the same. So that's what we're checking to see again. So that work is ongoing. And yeah, like you mentioned, Opaiula Road is actually owned by the developer here. And I think the hardware store utilizes that road and has some kind of agreement with the owner. And then similarly on Cane Hall Road, that's a private road and it's primarily used by Kamehameha Schools people, but they have to pass through this property, and the developer is working on an agreement with Kamehameha Schools to ensure access through there.
Ayala, if you don't.
Oh yeah, the runoff on Opaiula. I don't know what the source of that runoff is. So I don't think I can answer that question tonight, but I can look into it.
Thank you. Okay, back to the board, and Blake McElhaney, please.
Thanks for your presentation. I think, and people can correct me if I'm wrong, in terms of, there'll be plenty of parking. I'm pretty sure at some point this community and the city and county of Honolulu was looking at this property as a potential place to centralize municipal parking in order to get people out of their cars. So it's kind of ironic that this particular landowner always seems to come in at opportune times for themselves when the community is on the cusp of getting something unique for themselves that would improve the quality of life. I know that you had mentioned that you would take questions back from the community and you guys would consider it. I mean, I think all of us here pretty much would be asking you to consider how it's going to feel for you guys to basically ruin the town. The last time we had a presentation like this was Kamehameha Schools, and I don't know how many of you folks feel that the Kamehameha Schools redevelopment basically made Haleiwa completely different. And I'm pretty sure the level of service for a Kamehameha Highway on a lot of days has got to be F. So I guess you're kind of saying, well, it's not going to get worse than F, or the lowest possible grade. No, it gets gridlocked already. And then, you know, talking about parking, to me, if I'm not mistaken, it's the same landowner that has a restaurant on the shoreline that to this day, the parking stalls are, and if I understand correctly, it's a 180 seat restaurant. And even if you were to park properly in designated painted lines, I think there's probably something like 20 parking stalls on that property for 180 front seats workers. So in terms of credibility, I have a very hard time believing that there's going to be adequate parking for the combination of residents and the businesses you describe, which is very challenging. And maybe it's in your documents, I'm not sure, if you have any account of the at least 8 very large mounds of sand that were taken from the restaurant site as they were dug up in order to put the septic and wastewater, whatever that system is there, placed behind the existing areas in Haleiwa on that property. My understanding, and we've never been able to access the complete report, maybe you have it, was that upon examination of those sand piles, there were funerary objects, human remains that were taken from that shoreline property by that same landowner. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, maybe it's in your documentation. So I'm curious to know where those mounds of sand are now, once they were removed from the coastal shoreline restaurant area. And I just think fundamentally, this is probably one of the most outrageous, bold, destructive things that have ever been proposed to this community. And I have to admire you for your optimism and your positivity. I mean, that's remarkable.
Thank
It's
you. Thank you,
impressive.
Blake. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the encouragement. I don't have an answer to the sand piles off the top of my head. I know I've talked with them about that, but I don't have it like on the tip of my tongue. There was a substantial archaeological assessment done on this project, and I can tell you about that. There was a substantial archaeological investigation done on this property, but it didn't find
It
anything.
included the piles or not, we don't know.
Yeah, I know that I talked to them about that, but I don't recall what the
You need to get back to
situation-
us on that.
Yeah, I can look into it.
Thank you.
And then related to parking, and all I can tell you, so you're right that this was designated as an area potentially for a public parking area. And the landowner encouraged that at the time. And it was talked about in the city council. And they put it on one of their plans to help fund that. But it never came to fruition. And based on discussions with the city council members currently, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. So the current concept excludes that parking. But if the city council and others found a way to, support that, the landowner would be amenable to doing that. So, yeah, that's not out of the cards completely. It's just a matter, it doesn't seem like it's supported at the city level currently.
And just really quickly, and then the young lady over here is coming up to, don't worry, guys, we got plenty of time. We'll get to everybody. I also heard a little birdie told me last month that that the landowner is going to go through all of this and then turn around and flip the property, kind of like what Kennedy Wilson did to us out at Dillingham Ranch, where they got all their entitlements and then they turned around. So I'm just saying that's the rumor. I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying it's out there. So I just want to put that on the public for people to be aware of. So yes, please.
Aloha mai kako. My name is Kuipo Garrido. I'm a terra farmer at Namio Kupono Lo'ikalo and also a Hawaiian studies teacher at Haleiwa Elementary. I used to come to these meetings all the time, but I got busy growing kalo and teaching our youth of Hawaii to Malamala Aina. I come from a space of Aloha Aina. I wasn't planning on talking tonight, and I really feel bad for you because you worked so hard, and I appreciate all the effort that you put in your beautiful drawing. But when I hear the word development, conceptual plan, my na'au just curl. So by a show of hands, who here, when you saw this, was like, yay, mahalo. So I feel so bad because I don't know if what I'm saying is going to make a difference if this cannot never, ever, ever happen, because it's beautiful in the drawing and in the concept for your who's only going to make his bank account grow while our community will suffer. And can you define to me what is local to you? And if a person, no offense to anybody who just moved here 5-10 years ago, but working in Hawaii, in Haleiwa, you live and work, that doesn't define you as local. I've been teaching Hawaiian studies for over 25 years, and the children that I teach have changed. All of our Piko Ohana, all of our local people have left, and it breaks my heart. And by hearing this plan, only more of them going to leave, and it's going to be replaced by people who or newcomers that come here. And I don't blame anybody for moving here. If you just move here, you move to paradise. But stuff like this is going to take that paradise away. And I understand that you're only doing your job. So I come from a space of aloha, but I just cannot sit here. My friend over there telling me, go, go. And I'm just like, my knowledge is just like, and I got to breathe and I got to focus because I want to cry. Every time I drive through Haleiwa and I see a new big mansion house going up on once upon a time was ag. And now I see all these big monster houses going up. It just breaks my heart for the next generation that's not going to know the Haleiwa that I knew when I was little growing up here. So I appreciate your hard work, but this cannot happen. If you were to come here and say that you're going to make ag lots for the community, for maybe Wailua Elementary to go grow food, Haleiwa Elementary, Wailua High School to grow food, I might be able to stand behind you, but you coming here and tell us that you're going to take away our country and you're going to take away what makes this place special. Your developer friend going to get rich. So I cannot stand behind this. And I want to mahalo everybody who spoke on behalf of Aloha Aina. Mahalo.
Mahalo, Kuipo. Thank you.
Yeah, I would thank you for your input. And it's hard to follow that, but you know, where you look at it in this way, and you know, I've lived here for a long time. I've seen a lot of change, and I have projects like this in my community as well. And I see my friends leaving the islands that grew up here, and it's because the cost of living has gone up, right? And they see more opportunity on the mainland. And a project like this, it's not going to fix everything, but it's going to give people that were born and raised here a more hopefully affordable stay. And if there's no more housing built, and the only housing built is mansions on the shore and mansions in the ag land, and there's nothing like this built, it's going to make the problem worse. And so I support projects in my neighborhood. I'm a very unpopular person at these meetings when I stop and speak in favor of things. But I look at things like climate change and cost of living and those things, and I recognize that we need housing. And so if it's going to make my commute a little slower, then so be it. I'll ride my bike. I ride my bike almost every day. But, you know, that's just part of the society that we live in. And it's part of the way the Sustainable Communities Plan has been written, is to allow for projects like this to enable our families to grow and stay here.
Jim, where do you live?
I live in town.
Where?
I live in Manoa.
I knew it. We're supporting our Manoa brethren. Okay, we got it. I know the project's there.
We have our projects. We had a low income senior
And
development.
I know the Manoa board was not as nice to you as we've been tonight.
Yeah.
I know that for a fact. So
I wasn't the consultant on this.
lucky you. But we're going to get back to more comments. So I'm going to go to Mark because he has not had a chance to speak yet. Go ahead, Mark.
Thanks, Chair. You know, Jim, one thing that keeps coming up is like, this is a concept. So for me, I guess what I'm guessing is, or what I'm wondering is, so this has changed from 156, 100% affordable to now market rate with a percentage affordable, where affordable isn't quite defined yet, and it depends on moving through the permitting process. And so as a community member, you know, for me, I want to see our housing inventory grow, but when we see these types of projects, I think what's really important is for the developer to be really responsive to the community's comments and concerns. So, you know, one thing is the ag concept, right? If we can preserve some of that, the safety aspect that Ben Devine brought up, I think that was a good point. Yeah, I'm not entirely opposed to this project. It's very fluid. It's hard for me to I don't know, what do I hold on to? I know you're gonna come back when you do your zone change application. I'd be really curious to see how this evolves because from my understanding, Director Apuna wrote the letter that said you don't need the EA. And what kind of substantive changes would need to occur to trigger that EA? I'm just curious about that. Sorry, that was more commentary, but
No, no, good comments for Jim to take back.
I'll just say a few other things about that. I write environmental impact statements for a living. That's like what I do day in and day out and advise people on when these things are required. And it's pretty clear in this case that the project remains the same and that the conditions haven't changed substantially since it was written. If for whatever reason, the new generation of the Sustainable Communities Plan said something radically different than the current one, that might change things. We don't anticipate that being the case. And the Sustainable Communities Plan version that was prior to the one that we have now envisioned the community growth boundary being further into the ag land than it is now. And only when the bypass was built did the community growth boundary come down to the bypass. And so now the community growth boundary is actually closer to downtown than it was 25 years ago. And back when the bypass was being proposed, they wrote an EIS, of course, and they wrote in their EIS that, let's see, construction of the bypass road will create remnant parcels of sugarcane land on which cultivation will not be practical. This being exactly one of those kind of instances. Though the remnant parcels are classified by the state and county as agricultural lands, the cessation of sugarcane production on those parcels could lead to their eventual conversion to urban use. The long-term result could be the urbanization of all the land between Haleiwa Town and the bypass. And that was a direct statement from the EIS that was written for the bypass. And it's exactly what was envisioned in the Sustainable Communities Plan. So in that regard, this project is consistent with previous disclosures and current plans. So again, it's just about when these community documents are prepared, these are the projects that are reflecting the values that are illustrated and put in those plans.
Community comment, question, Devin. Yeah, you got it. Sorry. Hey, if Ben can do it, you can do it.
It's pretty quick. You just mentioned it wouldn't be practical to grow anything on this piece of land. I wanted you to kind of flesh that out and say why. It seems like it'd be perfect for diversified ag, something like that.
Thank you.
Thanks for that question. So in our current application, which you can download, I can give people the link. I think it was earlier in my presentation. But there's a long discussion of why this site is no longer really supportive of agricultural use. And I'll just point out a few of the reasons. The proximity to concentrated urban development and activity, including residential uses and retail businesses in Haleiwa Town Center. So there's no buffer between that development and any ag that would happen on this parcel. The road that you can see in this drawing that takes up the part of the development nearest to the existing development was an old cane haul road. So even that area where the road is was never used for agriculture back in cane days. It was always like a buffer to the actual agricultural production. And when the highway was built, it separated this from the more substantial Malka lands And it also separated the site from agricultural water supplies. So there's no longer agricultural water available on the site. Let's see, what else do I want to talk about? Then when they built the highway, they actually used this site as a base yard for all the construction equipment. And when they were using this area, they brought in a lot of fill. So they brought in new material and they just moved everything around. So the soil had been at the ground surface back in the sugar plantation days is no longer there. It's been aggregate added to it and all kinds of things like that. So the value of the land for agriculture has been diminished by both its separation from the other land and then the addition of aggregate and other materials during road construction, plus no longer having agricultural water available. So for those reasons, when we talked to the Department of Agriculture about this zone change, they wrote a letter that they didn't see it as an adverse impact on agriculture to change the zoning and use it in a manner consistent with what's proposed.
Charlene, you had your hand up, and then we'll go to Raquel.
Oh, I appreciate your presentation as well, but I am sympathetic on two fronts. I know the developer. I think the problem here is ESIs really need to have a deadline because so much has changed in the last 10 to 15 years. And I understand our sustainability plan is only done every 10 years and it's kind of late right now. And I realize that ESIs do not have an expiration date. And it's great for the last 50 years. And all of a sudden in the last 10, 15 years, a lot of things have changed. The turtles, have become a tourist attraction. That's what created the traffic that wasn't here 9 years ago when this thing was proposed. And I think a lot of it has to do with our city and county and state. There is a problem with our ESIs being out of date. They're not up to date with what's currently happening, number one. Number two, I'm sympathetic to the developer because I know he tried to give the county the access down in Velzy land, and the county never picked it up. That is what I was told. So, I see the good and the bad, and I understand that the master plan does call for more housing. But as a developer, I think you are only obligated to make 10% of it affordable, correct? Is the developer? Oh, it does. Okay, that was my question. It has its own number. Okay, because I just didn't know if that was the standard thing. And like I said, because the costs are so high of everything, that's nice that it's going to be rental. But we can't afford the rentals now, so I'm just a bit concerned. We need the housing. I get it. I understand that side of it. But on the other side of it, he's going to have to make his money back if he does something like this. He's not going to be able to do it super cheap, just economically. And that's just a comment. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Raquel.
Thank you. I'm just going to go back to a comment you had mentioned, Mill Camp, the Mill Camp project. I just want to, they've never come to the board, so we haven't taken a position, but they've never asked for a rezone. And the reason that project seems favorable is because that already existed once upon a time. So the density is there. So we're not hurting in the housing that's in the future for us. And that is, the presentations thus far have been encouraging in terms of the rental market that this community can afford. I think overall in general, this community as a whole, from Kaena down to Sunset, there is a huge attempt to try to gain control over capacity and the amount of people that are out here already. The amount of cars. We live here and our way of life is changed, not the visitor, not the tourist, not the person that decides they want to move from Manoa. They want to make the space. We want to be able to regain and establish our space. I have to mahalo Kumufilis for your statement. That, for real, that was real. That couldn't have said it better. And I don't believe for a minute Agland is never usable. And I will never release Agland to a development. That just can't happen. We're in a place now that we have to think about how valuable that is to us for the future and not just for housing. So I do appreciate, props to you. You're getting it late tonight, I'm just saying. But there's a lot of issues, right? Traffic, resources, water, all of the things that are going to take away from what we have existing. And I think those need to be addressed pretty clearly and defining. And then things like the Opaiula access, the KS access, are they still going to be using that? Is there going to be an agreement for in perpetuity for them to not be impacted by not having that access? And I think you guys really need to hold on and look at that new plan, the North Shore Sustainable Communities Plan. I think that's going to end. I do believe that. So I would hold on to that. And I think the affordability factor, I mean, that word is used so loosely, you just take it out. Don't say it anymore. It just doesn't exist. It's just not happening. You know, so it's just those things. Like, this is a community that has so much taken away on a daily basis. We're trying to hold on to what we have and still retain some kind of integrity within our lands and our community. So,
Okay, first of all, I want to remind the board, this is up for a decision at the state. That means we have an opportunity to weigh in with a letter. So I would certainly hope, and I know I don't normally push this, but I'm pushing tonight. Can make a motion on this and let the chips fall where they may, but we can make a motion on this. I, again, restate my strong objection to this project because, thank you, Kuipo, for your eloquent words. I don't believe for 1 second that the people there, it's going to turn into, hey, let's get 10 people and rent for during surf season. I can almost guarantee you. I want to know, I want to see the HOA. Who's going to property manage this? We all know what happens when a place, rentals are not properly managed. We know what happens. It turns into, sorry, Mr. Lancourt, but yeah, he's going to build a freaking ghetto. And I don't think Rebecca back there wants to live next to a bunch of noisy people partying all night long. She's got a job. You can tell she works during the day. So I am like totally opposed to this. I'm sorry, I'm being very obstinate tonight about this, but I have to be. Karen, and then we'll come back to Maka. And Mike, I'm sorry, Mike and then Maka. I apologize. Thank you.
I've been patiently. Sorry, I just kind of a few things. First of all, one thing that's a little it's not connected with everything else, but it just came up where he stated that I'm a little confused. How come there he says there's no water for agriculture, yet there's water for the development? That kind of left a big question mark. So maybe he can tell us how that is possible. But okay, the house, the rooms, 2-bedroom places. Not a lot of really small families out here. I mean, that's pretty small. Like one, I don't know, the kid's gonna squish into one little teeny room, so doesn't really sound family good. And I think everyone out here that rents knows that market price is luxury price. The market price is unaffordable for most of us out here. So that's doesn't make sense. But the main thing is 30,000 feet of business space. Okay, that's the same size as the Haleiwa store lots. We know how inadequate that parking is. We know how much traffic it generates. And on top of that's going to be a lot of people in all those stores, 30,000 square feet. And they're all going to be coming down by Ace Hardware and then down by, we're going to need a traffic light at Ace Hardware, it sounds like to me. I don't think anyone wants a traffic light there, but with the bank and all the other stuff going on, that's a lot of traffic. It's not just the people living there in the morning and the evening that aren't going to impact us at all, apparently, as they're all going to walk to work. And so, yeah, that's going to be a lot more traffic. Let me see, I made notes because I always forget stuff. So, okay, yeah, people that are working in those places aren't going to be able to afford to live there too. That's what I'm saying. Anyway, hi, bye, I'm done.
Thank you, Karen. Go ahead, Mike. I'm going to just go ahead, Jim, if you don't mind. Go ahead, Mike.
Jim, thank you. Couple of things to preclude. First of all, I'm happy when people make money. we also need a place for people to live. That being said, affordable would be about 2,500 a month right now, today, for a 2-bedroom. For people to make that, I mean, look at us. We're all in Costco and slippers. We don't have that kind of money for people unless we put 5 people in a unit or more. Look at Sunset. Some of those places, tiny places, they got people living in a closet. So affordable, I don't see how we would have to go to town just to make a living. The other thing is at 2,500 a month, 150 units, not counting the business, it would be 4.5 million rent a year for 375,000 a month. We imagine the insatiable need by the city, what they're going to do, property taxes. Oh my gosh, all those farms up on the hill, all the residents on by Tulane side and all that. Hold on to your wallets, because once this is built, property tax is going to be brutal, and it's going to affect everybody, Haleiwa, Wailua, and that area especially. So please keep that in mind. You know, there's some, those tools I mentioned, but the drawbacks, man, property tax, how are we going to live like that? They're going to have to go to town. And affordable today is $2,500 just for a 2-bedroom. Knows what it'll be years from now. Thank you.
Thank you. Maka.
I'm circling back to my comments because I'm not sure if you got my concept that in order to live and work in Haleiwa, we need to build opportunities for work. I'm not sure how many businesses are hiring right now. As previous speakers already mentioned, that our residents go to town, your side of the island, to make a living and then come back home. Mahalo, Karen, for clarifying, because that was going to be my question. What's the occupancy of these rentals? Because my small family, and we're small in stature, would not be able to fit in that, let alone afford it. And so, again, movie theaters, Cinnabons, maybe an Old Navy, I don't know. What are we bringing down here? I don't want it. Mahalo e kumu kuipo for your manao and your leo aloha aina. Because yeah, we can huli kalima ilalo and kanu, because that's where the value is now. 10, 12, 15 years ago, yes, the documents that you're referring to did mention growth boundary, increasing in population, but eya kamanava nakahuli ilima ilalo. Here we are now seeing that the value and the importance of Aina and the loss of Aina outweighs not luxury housing. Thank you.
Community, any other comments in the community or questions? Okay, Bob.
You've heard the word traffic and cars. That's one of the areas where developers really screw up. The fact that the beach house has a parking lot that's supposed to accommodate all the employees and their guests and is compliant with the regulations is beyond any math that I understand. It's crazy. With the Kamehameha's development in Haleiwa, they don't have nearly enough parking for the amount of commercial space they have in there. Howard Green did mathematics. He was able to get a couple of more parking lots at his North Shore marketplace. And so he totaled out how much more money he made at the end of the year with a few more parking places. And each parking space was $100,000 more on gross revenue. So what's happening by land owners or developers getting greedy about their commercial space and not about a parking lot, they're actually ripping off their commercial tenants. They could be making a lot more money. They could find a place to park, the guests could, or the customers. It's a frequent problem we have out here. You can't find a place to put the parks out here either. Anyway, parking is a big deal. And one of the things Kamehameha had on a plan before they got rid of it was by the stoplight in Haleiwa. At one point in time, that was going to be a transportation hub where there was going to be a lot of parking and the buses would pull in there and you could park and ride and yada, yada. You might want to put that in your pipe. The other question I have for you, though, is if you were to buy the land today, it would be worth X. If you were to buy the land another day, say tomorrow, with all of the zoning in place, what would the cost be? And how much profit margin would inure to the property owner that sold the land? Which goes back to Mike's question about taxes going. I imagine your capital gains on that property sale would be enormous. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim, you wanted to address any of the comments that you've heard recently?
No. I don't know the answer to those questions about land values and stuff like that. I have no idea. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, exactly. It's whatever the market bears, and I'm not an appraiser.
Okay, any questions, comments? Yes, come on up.
I just want it to be known that Waialua was the breadbasket of Oahu. And so for the developer to know that they bought ag land and they've had it for the last 10 years and haven't done anything with it, and they think housing will help instead of putting farmers on it, is like the biggest joke right now, especially because this is prime land in Haleiwa and it could be farmed and you want to develop it. And affordable, there's no such thing as affordable now. Locals can't afford to live here. And I'm a local business owner as well. And I had a shop in town and the building sold recently, about a year ago, last October actually. And they upped my rent 4 times. And so I had to move out. I've been looking for a place in Haleiwa and there's nowhere affordable. And I doubt that your business spaces will be affordable for any local, unless you're another like Malibu Surf Shop or like a Snoopy's or someone that's like not a local owned business, basically. So the developer should consider, you know, farming the land, putting farmers on it or something. It's 10 years for vacant land. We don't need a development.
Thank you, Zah. Great words. Hey, Larry McElhaney, you know, you heard tonight, Jim, from these good folks in the back. You know, they're wanting to farm and wanting to grow food for the community. And now we have a project that's exactly the opposite, in my opinion. So go ahead, Larry. And then Maka also had something to say.
Yeah, Chair Pahinui mentioned that as an opportunity here for the board to make a motion and express their opposition to this project. I would hope that you board take advantage of that opportunity. It's important. And as far as your presentation, you know, I heard you mention the Sustainable Communities Plan over and over again. And then it was pointed out that the Sustainable Communities Plan that's in place today is, I think, 10 or 12 years old. It's in the process of being revised. And we don't know when the revised version is going to be available. And it bothers me that you claim over and over again that this project is going to comply with the Sustainable Communities Plan, and you don't even know what it's going to be. I don't think that's fair for you to say that. And I've experienced over and over again where developers will cherry pick a statement in the Sustainable Communities Plan, and they will twist it into meaning that this kind of a development is okay. I'll guarantee you that sustainable communities plans over the last 20 years say anything other than that the primary objective of the people that live out here is to retain the rural character of this area. Everyone, if you read the first few pages, that's what it says over and over again. Retain the rural character. This does just the opposite. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Maka. Jim, did you want to respond before Maka says anything?
I'll just say a few words. Yeah, I mean, we don't have a crystal ball to know what the Sustainable Communities Plan is going to be. I will say that the agency that we submit our application to is the same agency that's preparing the Sustainable Communities Plan. So that agency knows what the new plan is going to say. They haven't shared it with me. But, you know, we look at what they have on their website that's indicating no dramatic changes to things like the urban or the community growth boundary and things like that. So we're taking what they say on their website at face value, but we're interpreting it. And I said it earlier, but you know, retaining the urban character of the community, we're going to try to do that with the design, but sorry, rural characters, excuse me, Freudian slip. But yeah, retaining the rural character. But part of the retaining the rural character is recognizing that you have a town center and that you're going to develop that town center so that the remainder of the area on the other side of the bypass does stay rural and isn't under the same pressure for development, so that, you know, it can continue to be farmed and you don't end up with someone building a mansion and an ADU for someone that's going to potentially live in these units. So that's all I have
Well,
to say.
Jim, if that were true, I'd say good on you. But unfortunately, the mansions with the ADUs are already going in above there. And this just adds to our misery because it's already happening. You know, we see it. So Maka, please.
And with that encouragement, Mr. McElhaney, thank you very much. I, member Casson Fisher, move that the North Shore Neighborhood Board, number 27, hold on, because I want to get clarification and confirmation and make sure you folks also know what the process is. My understanding, Chair, is that the developer will need to go to the state land use district boundary amendment.
So yes, he needs to get a state land use district boundary amendment from ag to urban. Correct, Jim?
That's a big show.
And because it's with the state, we as a neighborhood board have an opportunity to weigh in and share our manao. Great. Again, I member Casson Fisher, move that the North Shore Neighborhood Board write a letter of opposition, strong opposition, to the state land use district boundary amendment.
A second. Oh, okay, I'll choose seconds. At this point, board members, any final questions or comments from the board? Yes, Mark.
Thanks, Chair. It's gonna be hard for me to vote on this because, like I said earlier, it's just concepts of a plan, and add something more solid to vote on. I'd feel much better about voting on that.
Well, we are voting on something. The solid thing is they want to change an amendment, a boundary from ag to urban. And once you do that, there's no going back. So even if this plan were to fail or to morph or to change, we are now stuck with urban type development. You can't go backwards. So hearing tonight from the community strongly believes that this land is still good land. Many of our board members believe that this land is still good land. So in order for us to keep it in ag, if we change the boundary, we lose that ag, period. Thank you. Thank you for that. Good question. Yes, Mr. McElhaney.
Oh, thanks for that awesome motion. I'm gonna support that motion. I think it's important to everyone. There was a development proposed very far along with all kinds of schematics and whatnot along Achu Lane, right? And the community put up just like this and said that doesn't seem right over here. So there's examples of where when things seem far along, and in terms of having enough to go on, the timeline shows that the regulatory bodies are actively considering it and having hearings and whatnot. So the people with the actual authority feel like there is enough to go on, or they wouldn't be holding the hearings and reviewing these materials. So certainly we have enough. And I think our standard practice has always been to establish our position as a community so that those bodies have that under advisement at the time that they make their decision making. So I just want to speak in strong support of the motion. Thank you.
Yeah, and you know something, that was the Scott Wallace project. Guess who owns the land now? Jack and Kim Johnson. God bless them for buying that. And guess what they're doing? Farming back there, which they said, Mr. Wallace said couldn't be done. And guess what? They're restoring an artesian well. I'm sorry, I'm passionate about this. I can't help it. It's beautiful. If you haven't been back, you should ask them for a tour. It's gorgeous. And they're doing exactly what on that property that they said that could not be done. And that's what they're saying on this property. So thank you. Thank you, Board Member McElhaney. Any other board comments? Okay, Zoidel, you want to take a roll call? We have a motion to write a letter in strong opposition to this state land use amendment boundary change from ag to urban. Thank you.
Achu. Alexander. Casson Fisher. Clemente. Fu. Linao. Lyons. Let's go. Blake. Aline. 7-1. So the vote is 7 ayes, 1 no, 1 abstain, not adopted.
Everybody, call me and I'll tell you who to contact because you can all still weigh in and we can all weigh in. Sorry, the motion didn't pass. Sorry. Okay, moving on. We still have some time left and we have our council member has been waiting patiently, or his wonderful representative has been waiting patiently in the back. And Kelly, you want to come up and give us a report? Thank you.
Okay, good evening, Chair Pahinui and members of the board. Kelly Anaya from Councilmember Matt Wire's office. I know we're kind of pressed on time, so I'll kind of just go over really quickly. Councilmember wanted to remind everyone about the Kahuku Pool community meeting. I believe it's the third meeting is going to be scheduled for next I think it's Thursday, October 29th, 6 p.m. Right now, the location is to be determined. If anyone has the newsletter, there's like a QR code you can scan for more information. Also, I was reminded to bring up about Bill 64. So that reported out for a second reading from today's committee meeting. The next hearing should be for November's full council. There will be more like cleanup hearing in the P&E committee for November, and hopefully it'll be adopted out in December's full council. Councilmember encourages everyone to continue submitting testimony. You can go to honolulucitycouncil.org/Bill 64. I do have quite a bit of updates from last month as well. Let's see. Haleiwa Walkways project. It's scheduled to be advertised for bids in the summer of next year. pending approvals from the utility companies and agencies and affected property owners. They're going to be holding a public meeting later this year to update the community on the project status and the latest plans. They will also be sending out flyers for the meeting to all adjacent property owners. I believe also last month meeting, Haleiwa Road, the harbors asking for speed humps and bumps. I did put that request in earlier this year back in June, but I have not heard back from the department yet. Someone else also had asked for, I guess, traffic calming devices at the intersection of Naluahi and Farrington Highway. That is actually under state DOT, and DTS, Department of Transportation Services, had forwarded that request to the state DOT back in July. Also from last month, someone asked about the Haleiwa Beach Park lights, kind of by the play apparatus. Apparently, the lights closest on the basketball court had to be removed due to corrosion, but they are, DPR is anticipating installing the lights at the ending of November by the play apparatus. Also, the Hapua'a signage at Sunset Beach Elementary and Haleiwa Beach Park, I'm still waiting to hear back from the department. Also, Pa'alakai speed humps, I believe that was at Oleana Street. During Councilmember Sunyoshi's time, we did do traffic studies and we sent DTS out on numerous site visits. Unfortunately, that was during COVID and a lot of their, I guess, data came back unwarranted. So I will be following up with the department again to see if we kind of revisit the traffic study. And thank you, Board Member Atu, for helping me out with that situation. And then lastly, HPD at Kayaka at last month's meeting as well. So I did follow up with HPD. I believe the next day they did go out and do an SPO with DFM. So I did speak to HPD. They said that they will discuss with their officers again about possibly having their presence known and doing paperwork in the parking lot at Kayaka. And then just an FYI, the scheduled SPO for Kayaka is going to happen sometime next week. So hopefully that'll kind of help deter the riffraff that's going on over there. And I believe that is it for me. Oh, I'm sorry. I think Joel, you had a question regarding the green waste. So the information I do have about that is back in 2015, ENV did have a, I don't know, I guess a change in their regulations. And so they weren't actually supposed to be taking green waste. But as far as why only North Shore, I need to follow up on that. So I'll get back to you. Yep, I think that is it. If anyone has any questions for a council member, I can take them back to.
Okay, Casey, then Bob.
Okay, so we had a bus stop that a car ran through at Waimea Bay.
Waimea Bay,
And
okay.
the roof is gone, the fence behind it's gone, the bench is gone, it's like gone. And the question is, when will they replace it?
Okay.
And while we're working on the we're gone, there's a lot of palms that the beetle have already eaten. They're dead. They need to be gone. Right now,
Is
the
this-
beetle
The
food.
tree stump is still there? Is that what you're saying?
Well, the tree is there and there's 2 or 3 dead brown leaves at the top. So it's just depressing to look at it, number one. It's a lolu palm. It's a native Hawaiian palm. And I think that the beetles, from what I can tell, enjoy that more than I like coconut trees. But lots, if you don't have someone to cut a tree down, sometimes they're just there for years.
I'm sorry, where is it?
This is at the Pupukea Rec Center or Sunset Beach Rec Center.
Sunset Beach Rec Center.
Yeah. Thank you.
My understanding is that the coconut palms at Ali'i are going to be cut down, and I've received requests from a number of community members to request that new coconut palms be planted in their stead wherever we are cutting down these palms. The later ones are not as susceptible to CRB, and so I'm really optimistic that we're going to have some solutions by the time
I
they
heard about
get-
that too. I don't have a definitive answer for that, so I can't.
Okay.
But I'll look into that.
Lolu palms are more susceptible, or they die faster. Second question was, saw the speed humps over here, was happy about that. Do we have any update on the speed humps in front of the elementary school right here?
Oh my gosh, you know what? I did have an update, but I did have. I'm sorry. I'll get it to Zoidel and I'll get that to you. Sorry about
Send
that.
it to me and
Yes.
I'll share it with everybody.
Yeah, sorry
Okay.
about that. I did get an update, but didn't write it down. My bad.
Okay. Community, any questions for Councilmember Wire? Any other board members? Hey, Bob, no, Joe, go ahead and then Bob.
Joe Lazar. What's with all the speed bumps? I mean, on Calcona, I haven't been down Gooddale, but I hear they're there too. But
That's your community.
I know.
We
it's-
like them,
I-
sorry, we like them.
Huh?
I live over here, we like them.
Live over where?
Right over here.
Yeah. Well, what about Calcona?
I have no problem with those either. So somebody died over there and that was a result and I can't
And
tell
it
you,
was
Joe.
and it was a drunk driver, from what I understand.
Yes, but I can't tell you how many calls and letters Raquel got. She lives over there. I got from people a ton.
Well, where's the police presence? Well, I know, but where's, if we have an area that's notoriously people are speeding, let's get some policemen parked over there.
We've done sign waving and everything.
I've seen,
Well, we have. I did sign waving
but
now.
I see the speed bumps every time.
Yeah,
All
but
6 of them.
I can tell you right now, we got a lot of people that wanted them. I'm just letting you know.
I always drive.
Yeah.
I always drive the speed limit. No, you didn't. Not me.
Okay, well, sorry, Joe. I'm sorry about that. Bob, go ahead. Bob, you had your hand up?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, guys, thanks
Council
for
members
coming.
still supporting fireworks? Okay, because I know the council, I read in the paper last week, they're moving it forward. And I just say that the people who live around where I live have a lot of animals and they really don't like that. And if I lived in a dense area where I had a lung problem, I wouldn't like it either.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I kind of glossed over that in the essence of time. But yes, if you look on the page of our newsletter, Councilmember did vote no against that. And I believe the mayor indicated that he was going to not sign the bill as well. He's not in.
Any other questions for Kelly? Thank you. Thank you for hanging in there with us. Thank you.
Hello, my Kako. My name is Elizabeth. I'll be giving the report on behalf of Senator Brenton Awa's office. Just really short updates. So sorry, Joe. One of the updates is more speed bumps. But just after that hit and run incident at the end of July, on Kamehameha Highway between Micah Place and Comstat Road, community members reached out to us asking us for speed tables and raised crosswalks in that area between Buildingland and Sunset. And we're not just going to go out there and put it out there because it looks pretty, but we asked this constituent member to go out to the community, get support, because people don't like it, people do like it. We got over 100 signatures requesting for those speed tables, and that was back early August. And right now, currently, they should be up this month, 4 raised crosswalks and 3 speed tables in that area between Buildingland and Sunset. So that's one of the updates. Second, thank you, Joe, for mentioning the green waste dump site in Kawailoa hours. We're still working on it. Senator Awa mentioned last month that we're working together with the state to get another parcel for a second green waste dump site / burn site. We've been back and forth with DBET and Department of Agriculture trying to find land that's available. Once we find a parcel, we give it to them and they tell us, it's currently being leased. Got it. We're going to keep looking. Then we continue looking. It's currently going to be in a contract. Got it. So right now we're kind of going back and forth. Right now we're looking at something between with us, the state and UH. So hopefully we get word soon. That's currently what we're working on. So those are the only two updates. Side note, I mentioned to Raquel, I really appreciate the presentation that was given earlier. It reminded me to go and buy a bouquet of flowers for my landlord because I'm currently paying $2,000 for a 3-bedroom, and market price for a 3-bedroom right now, I just looked it up during the presentation, is $3,500. Ask me for my address. I don't want any competition on my home. But yeah, that's all of my updates. I'll take back any questions. Thank you everyone for having me.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Thank you very much for coming tonight. We appreciate it. I forgot to mention, we still do not have a mayor's rep. I did pass out to the board the mayor's report. So you do have that from the office. I do not see any reps here oh, there she is, lurking in the back. Hi, Yvonne. Okay, I don't see anybody from Rep Quinlan's office, but Yvonne's here from Rep Peruso's office. I
Hello,
didn't know somebody would have been here.
Aloha, everyone. My name is Yvonne Yoro from Rep Peruso's office. Just 3 updates, mostly events that Rep's going to be hosting for the rest of the next 2 weeks. The first being a continuation of an event that she held last Thursday. And I want to thank Vice Chair Chu for being there. It was a really great conversation about HB 2404. If you folks don't know about it, it's the big tax cut that's going to be affecting us within the next 7 years. And there's just going to be a big tax gap. So if you're interested in learning about the people's budget that she's working on with a few other legislators, join us next Monday at noon. It's going to be on Zoom. If you want to join, I can grab your email or you can email Rep Peruso and then we'll send out the details. So that's the first. The second is an in-person event that's also a continuation of the people's budget. So what we're doing in our office is we're trying to get more people involved in preparation for the next legislative session. So we understand what the budget is going to be doing for our community after it gets passed next session. So what we want to do is we want to craft a people's budget. What's going to help us in our community? What things are going to help pay for the resources that we need, our education, roads, things like that. So on Wednesday at 6 p.m., we're going to be hosting an in-person budget meeting at the Mililani High School Library. And then the last is a talk story session on top of some of the good caucus crafting a people's budget initiative that Rep's been doing. She's also been working with midwife advocates in continuation with the bill that didn't pass last session. So she's going to have a talk story session on November 3rd. So that's a Sunday in the afternoon, but it's going to be here at the Smoking Boar and the Coconut. So if you folks can make it, hope you can come out. And any of these events, if you need more information, you can either email or text Rep or me. Thank you.
Okay, seeing none. Thank you so much for coming today. Yeah, we need to put you on a pillow. I can't see you. Okay, thank you. And thanks, Rep, for all that she does for us. We really appreciate it. Can we get approval of our July 23rd regular meeting minutes? Bob, we did make that correction. Do we have a motion to accept the minutes as approved or as amended? We have a second. Charlene seconds. Bob moves. Do we have any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you very much. Approval of the September 24th, 2024 regular meeting minutes. Do we have a motion to approve? Bob moves. Do we have a second? Blake seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Any abstention? Thank you very much. And at this point, just a reminder, we have that meeting, a committee meeting on November 22nd, where Chair Chu has been working to bring out DPP and other state and officials to talk about the whole CPR and answer the committee's questions. And that came out of our meeting last month. So thank you for all of that. I think that's pretty much it. Our next meeting will be 2 days before Thanksgiving, November 22nd, I think, or what is it? 24th, 26th. Thank you. I can't even think anymore. Go ahead, Bob.
The email we got from the Neighborhood Commission from the OIP, which is essentially from perspective a gag order about how come we can't ask questions. I think that we should take a position on that at some point in time.
Okay.
Second thing is with regard to announcements. Rainy season's around the corner. Arbor Day is November 2nd in Waimea Valley. So you can come get a free tree. And they're also celebrating Makahiki in the valley that day.
Okay, thank you. And Maka has an announcement.
Mahalo. So we did reschedule our North Shore Disaster Prep Fair to November 9th. So we did that last year and we rescheduled because of the potential heavy rains and the flooding that we were going to have in the community. And it's been rescheduled to November 9th. So it'll be at the WCA, Waialua Community Association, free and open. Come get your information, come see community and talk about emergency preparedness. Because, you know, if we are going to be having more housing developed, we need to make sure we can get out and safe. Mahalo.
Thank you. And at this point, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry to hear about your uncle.
Oh, not a problem.